The metal door slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Hyanwu stepped into the observation deck and looked down at the containment cell below. Behind the blue energy field sat the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. Kevtar, the destroyer, did not move. He sat in the center of the white room like a statue made of death. 9 feet tall, his body was covered in black armor that looked like it grew from his skin. Sharp spikes ran down his back. His arms ended in hands that could split open to reveal razor-sharp blades. Still nothing? Admiral Hyanwu asked. Commander. Park stood beside him, holding a datapad. 6 months, sir. He refuses every order. The Altarians tried to control his mind. Krillians challenged him to combat. The synthetics used logic programs. Nothing works. The Admiral rubbed his tired eyes. The war was going badly. The Zephyrian Empire was winning on 3 fronts. Their bioships ate entire planets. Millions of people were dying. The Coalition needed their secret weapon, but Kevtar would not fight. What does he say when we give him orders? The Admiral asked. The same thing every time, Commander Park replied. You are not worthy to command death itself. Below them, Kevtar's head turned slightly. His red eyes looked up at the observation window. Even through the thick glass, Admiral Hyanwu felt a chill. Those eyes had seen the death of worlds. The Admiral had read Kevtar's file many times. The creature came from the Vexi system, a place where only the strongest survived. His people had been at war for 1,000 years. When the Coalition found them, only a few hundred Vexi were left alive. Kevtar was different from the others. The Coalition scientists had changed him, made him stronger and faster. They gave him better armor and sharper blades. They made him the perfect killer. But they could not make him obey. Sir, Commander Park said, there is one more option. What is it? The humans have a new officer. Captain Lee Daeho. He specializes in difficult cases. Admiral Hyanwu had heard of humans. They were a young species new to the galaxy. Aliens thought they were weak. Humans had no natural armor, no claws, no poison. They were small and soft. What makes you think a human can succeed where others failed? The Admiral asked. I studied their military history, Commander Park said. Humans have a saying, know your enemy. They spend time understanding what they fight. Maybe that approach will work with Kevtar. The Admiral looked down at the apex predator again. Kevtar had returned to his statue-like pose. 6 months of the best minds in the galaxy had failed to move him. Maybe it was time to try something different. Send for this human, Admiral Hyanwu ordered. 3 days later, Captain Lee Daeho arrived at Station Omega-7. He was young for a captain, maybe 30 years old. His uniform was neat but not fancy. Carried himself like a soldier, but his eyes were calm and thoughtful. Captain Daeho, reporting for duty, sir, he said with a slight bow. Admiral who studied the human. Daeho was average height for his species, with black hair and dark eyes. Nothing about him seemed special. But the Admiral had learned not to judge by appearances. Captain, I will be direct. We need Kevtar to fight, but he refuses all orders. Can you make him obey? Daeho was quiet for a moment. Sir, may I ask what methods have been tried? Commander Park handed him a datapad. Mental control, honor, challenges, logical arguments, threats, rewards, everything. Daeho read through the reports. His face showed no emotion. I see. And what does Kevtar say about these attempts? That we are not worthy to command him, the Admiral replied. Interesting, Daeho said. Sir, I would like to meet him. Be careful, Captain. He has killed before. The energy field will protect you, but do not get too close. Daeho nodded. I understand, sir. The human walked into the containment area. Alone, Kevtar sat in the same position, not moving. Daeho pulled up a chair and sat down outside the energy field. He did not speak. He just watched. Hours passed. Kevtar did not move. Daeho did not move. The guards began to whisper among themselves. What was the human doing? On the second day, Daeho brought a notebook. He wrote in it while watching Kevtar. Sometimes he would tilt his head as if thinking about something. But he still did not speak. The other officers began to worry. Is he doing anything? Admiral Hyanwu? Asked Commander Park. He just sits there and watches, she replied. The guards say he takes notes, but he never tries to talk to Kevtar. On the third day, something changed. Kevtar's head turned toward Deho. The red eyes studied the human with new interest. For the first time in months, the apex predator spoke. Why do you not demand my service, small creature? Deho looked up from his notebook. His voice was calm and steady. Because I can see what you are. And what am I? You're not a weapon, Deho said. You are a warrior. And warriors choose their battles. Silence filled the room. Even the guards stopped moving. Kevtar's head tilted slightly like a predator. Studying new prey, the others see only what they want, Deho continued. They see a tool to be used. But I see someone who has earned the right to choose. Kevtar stood up slowly. His full height was impressive, even behind the energy field. You speak of choice, but your people want me to kill for them. My people want you to fight with us, Deho corrected. There is a difference. Explain this difference. Deho closed his notebook and leaned forward. A tool is used and thrown. Away, a warrior fights beside his brothers. A tool follows orders. A warrior chooses his cause. For several minutes, neither spoke. The tension in the room was thick. Guards watched through the windows, ready to act if needed. Finally, Kevtar sat back down, but his posture was different now. Less like a statue, more like someone ready to listen. You interest me, human, Kevtar said. What is your name? Captain Lee Deho. Tell me, Captain Lee Deho, why should I fight your war? Deho opened his notebook again. Let me show you what we are fighting against. As he began to speak, Admiral Hyanwu watched from above. For the first time in 6 months, someone was having a real conversation with their deadliest weapon. Maybe the humans were not as weak as everyone thought. Maybe they understood something the rest of the galaxy had missed. The war was far from over. But something had changed in that small white room. The apex predator was finally listening. Captain Deho opened his notebook and showed Kevtar pictures on his datapad. The images were terrible. Burned planets, empty cities, ships floating dead in space. The Zephyrians do not just fight, Deho explained. They consume. They take makes them stronger. Every person they kill feeds their bioships. Kevtar studied the images with his red eyes. I have seen war before. Human, death is part of existence. This is not war, Deho said quietly. This is feeding time. He showed more pictures. A planet called New Earth, covered in green forests and blue oceans. Then the same planet after. The Zephyrians came. Gray rock and dead water. They do not want territory, Deho continued. They want food, and we are the food. Kevtar was silent for a long moment. His clawed hands opened and closed slowly. Your coalition has many warriors. Why do you need me? Because normal weapons do not work against them. Their ships heal themselves. Their soldiers grow back lost parts. We need someone who can kill things that refuse to die. The apex predator laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. So you do see me as a weapon? No, Deho said firmly. I see you as the only one who can stop them. The difference in those words was small, but Kevtar noticed. He leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow across the floor. Tell me about yourself, Captain Lee Deho. What kind of warrior are you? Deho thought for a moment. I am. Not the strongest or the fastest. My people are not natural fighters. But we do not give up. What do you mean? It's my home world. There were creatures much stronger than humans. Big cats with sharp teeth, bears with massive claws, flying reptiles that could crush a man. But humans survived. We learned to work together. We used our minds instead of just muscle. Kevtar tilted his head. Pack hunters. Das. We hunt in groups, we share information, we watch each other's backs. The Vexai understand this, Kevtar said slowly. My people also learn that the lone hunter dies alone. For the first time, Deho saw something other than cold killing instinct. In those red eyes. Something that looked almost like loneliness. How many of your people are left? Deho asked gently. Few. The war has consumed most of us. The coalition found only survivors, not warriors. but you are still a warrior. I am the last true warrior of my people, Kevtar said with quiet pride. That is why I cannot serve those who do not understand what it means to fight and die. Deho nodded. The Altarians tried to control your mind because they fear individual thought. The Krillians challenged you because they only understand personal honor. The synthetics use logic because they think everything is a math problem. Humans try to understand first, Deho said. We ask why before we ask how. Kevtar stood up and walked to the edge of the energy field. Up close, Deho could see the scars on the creature's armor, old wounds from countless battles. You have fought before, Kevtar observed, looking at a small scar on Deho's hand. Yes, pirates in the Outer Rim. They attacked civilian ships, and you won. My team won. I told you, humans fight together, Kevtar repeated the words slowly. Not your soldiers, not your weapons, your team. That is right. The apex predator was quiet for a long time. He walked around his cell, his claws clicking on the metal floor. Deho waited patiently. Finally, Kevtar stopped and looked at the human again. The others who came before you, they spoke of duty and obedience. You speak of choice and understanding. Why? Because I read your file, Deho said simply. Learned about the Vexhai. I know your people valued honor above life. They fought not because they were told to, but because they chose to protect something important. What did they protect? Each other. Kevtar's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, Deho thought he had said something wrong. Then he realized the creature was not angry. It was remembering. My pack brothers are all dead, Kevtar said quietly. I have no one left to protect. You could protect mine, Deho offered, the red eyes fixed on the human with sharp attention. Your pack, my team, my people. The billions of civilians who cannot fight for themselves. What would you give me in return? Deho thought carefully before answering. The chance to hunt again. Not as a slave or a tool, but as a warrior choosing his battle. Before Kevtar could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside. A voice came over the speakers. All personnel to battle stations. Incoming Zephyrian fleet detected. ETA 30 minutes. Deho stood up quickly. Through the windows, he could see officers running in the corridors. Ships were launching from the station's bays. They found us, he said grimly. Kevtar watched the activity with professional interest. How many ships? Deho checked his communicator. His face went pale. 50 bioships, including a command vessel. Your station has how many defenders? 12 ships. Be 15 if the patrol ships get back in time. Kevtar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Interesting odds. This is not a game, Deho said seriously. If they take this station, they will have access to all our intelligence. Ship movements, colony locations, defense plans. Then you must stop them. Cannot. Not with 12 ships against 50. Kevtar walked to the center of his cell and sat down in his familiar pose. For a moment, Deho thought the conversation was over. Then the apex predator spoke quietly. Captain Lee Deho. Yes. If I were to hunt with your pack, what would be my role? Deho felt his heart beat faster. You would be our spear point, the blade that cuts through their defenses, and you would be your shield, your support, your pack brother. Kevtar was silent for another long moment. Outside, the station's weapons were powering up as the first enemy ships appeared on the long-range scanners. Turn off the energy field, Kevtar said finally. What? Turn off the field. If we are to hunt together, I must be able to move freely. Deho's hand hovered over the control panel. 6 months of failed attempts. Dozens of dead ends. And now, with enemy ships approaching, the apex predator was finally ready to fight. Promise me something, Deho said. What? Promise me this is not a trick to escape. Kevtar looked directly into the human's eyes. Captain Lee Deho, I give you my warrior's oath. If you trust me with your pack, I will trust you with my life. Deho pressed the button. The blue energy field flickered and disappeared. For the first time in 6 months, Kevtar, the destroyer, was free and he was ready. to hunt. Kevtar stepped out of his cell for the first time in 6 months. His massive frame filled the doorway. The guards in the corridor stepped back, hands moving to their weapons. "Stand down," Deho ordered firmly. "He is with me now." The guards looked uncertain, but they obeyed. Kevtar noticed this and nodded with approval. "Your pack follows your orders without question." "They trust me," Deho corrected. "Just as I am trusting you." Admiral Hyanwoo's voice crackled over the communicator. "Captain Deho, report to the command center immediately. Bring him with you." The walk through the station corridors was tense. Officers and crew members pressed against the walls as Kevtar passed. His claws clicked on the metal floor with each step. His red eyes scanned everything, memorizing exits and weak points like the predator he was. "They fear me," Kevtar observed. "Yes," Deho said honestly. "But fear can be useful if it makes them fight harder." "You do not fear me. I fear what you could do to innocent people. But I do not fear you as a person. I've tailored this." There is wisdom in that distinction. The command center was chaos when they arrived. Officers shouted reports across the room. Holographic displays showed the approaching Zephyrian fleet. The enemy ships looked like living creatures swimming through space. Their surfaces pulsed with organic light. Admiral Hyanwoo turned when they entered. His eyes widened at seeing Kevtar free, but he stayed calm. "Captain, we have a situation." "I can see that, sir. What are our options?" "Limited. The enemy fleet has 50 bioships. Our defenders number 12. We cannot win a direct fight." Kevtar moved to the tactical display. His height let him see over everyone else. "Show me their formation." Commander Park hesitated and looked to the Admiral. Hyanwoo nodded reluctantly. The display changed to show the enemy fleet arrangement. The smaller bioships formed a protective shell around a massive central vessel. The command ship was 10 times larger than the others, surface covered in weapon pods and armor plates that looked like scales. "That is their queen ship," Kevtar said with certainty. "Kill it, and the others will lose coordination." "We know that," Admiral Hyanwoo replied. "But we cannot get through their screen. The smaller ships will destroy us before we reach the target." "Not if you have the right hunter," Kevtar said. Lieutenant Commander Park Sun-hye stepped forward. She was small even for a human, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. "What do you mean?" Kevtar looked at her with interest. "You analyze patterns?" "I can see it in how you watch the display." "Tell me what you see." Sun-hye glanced at Deho, who nodded encouragingly. "The bioships move in groups of 3 or 4. They protect each other like a school of fish. But there are gaps in their formation. Every 47 seconds, when they rotate positions—" "Excellent," Kevtar rumbled. "A true hunter always watches for the moment when prey shows weakness." "But those gaps only last 3 seconds," Admiral Hyanwoo protested. "No ship can get through in that time." "No ship," Kevtar agreed. "But a single hunter and the right equipment could." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to the apex predator. He stood calmly, his scarred armor reflecting the light from the displays. "You want to board their command ship alone?" Deho asked. "Not alone. With my pack." Kevtar's red eyes swept the room. "But not with all of them. Too many hunters make noise. Too much noise alerts the prey." Admiral Hyanwoo shook his head. "It's suicide. Even if you reached their ship, you would be outnumbered 1,000 to 1. "Numbers do not matter when hunting in the right way," Kevtar replied. "The Vexai learned this during our wars. Sometimes the smallest pack brings down the largest prey." Deho studied the tactical display. "What would you need?" "A fast insertion craft, something that can slip through their screen undetected. And a small team of your best warriors." "How small?" "Plus myself." Commander Park looked worried. 5 people against an entire bioship. That ship probably has 10,000 crew members. Kevtar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. 10,000 is not the same as 10,000 warriors. Most will be workers, not fighters. And bioships have weaknesses that metal ships do not. "What weaknesses?" Sun-hye asked. "They are alive. They feel pain. They can be frightened.
And
All living things, they have vital organs that must be protected." The Admiral paced back and forth. Outside the command center windows, they could see the station's defensive fleet forming up. 12 ships against 50. Even with the best tactics, it would be a massacre. What would be your target once you boarded? The admiral asked finally. The brain, Keftar said simply. Every bioship has a central nervous system. Find it, destroy it, and the ship dies. And if you fail, then your fleet will buy you time to evacuate the station. Some will survive to fight another day. If you succeed, then the Queen's ship dies, and its fleet loses coordination. Your 12 ships might have a chance against confused prey. Deho looked around the room. He could see the hope and fear warring in people's faces. It was a desperate plan, but desperate times called for desperate measures. I volunteer to go with him, Deho said. Captain, I cannot, the admiral began. Sir, with respect, this was my idea. If Keftar is willing to risk his life for strangers, I can do no less for my own people. Keftar nodded approvingly. Good, a pack leader should hunt with his warriors. I'm going to Sun, he said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at the small intelligence officer. She stood straighter under their stares. You will need someone who understands bioship systems. I have studied them for 3 years. Absolutely not, Admiral Heinwu said firmly. You are too valuable to risk on, Sir. Sunhei interrupted politely, but firmly. Analysis shows this plan has a 12% chance of success with a 4-person team. It's my technical knowledge that rises to 28%. Keftar looked impressed. She thinks like a hunter. I approve. Before anyone else could volunteer, alarms rang again. A technician called out from his station. Enemy fleet entering weapons range in 15 minutes, sir. The admiral looked at the display, then at Keftar, then at his officers. The weight of command sat heavy on his shoulders. Very well, he said finally, but I choose the other 2 team members. Sergeant Major Kim Jae-sung from Special Forces and Corporal Yoon Mi-young, our best tech specialist. Acceptable, Keftar said. When do we hunt? 10 minutes, Admiral Heinwu replied. The stealth ship Baidu is being prepared now. As the team prepared to leave, Keftar pulled Deho aside. Are you certain about this, pack leader? Once we begin the hunt, there's no turning back. Deho met the apex predator's red eyes without flinching. My people are in danger. That makes this my fight. Even if it costs your life, especially then. Keftar studied the human's face for a long moment. Then he placed one massive clawed hand on Deho's shoulder. You truly are a warrior, Captain Lee Deho. I am honored to hunt beside you. For the first time since meeting the apex predator, Deho smiled. The honor is mine, Keftar. Outside, enemy ships filled the scanner displays. The hunt was about to begin. The stealth ship Baidu moved silently through space toward the enemy fleet. Inside its cramped cabin, 5 hunters prepared for battle. Sergeant Major Kim Jae-sung checked his assault rifle for the 3rd time. He was a big man with scars on his face and steady hands. He had fought pirates and rebels across the galaxy, but he had never fought alongside an apex predator before. You seem nervous, Keftar observed. Not nervous, Jae-sung replied. Careful, there's a difference. Good, nervous hunters make mistakes. Corporal Yoon Mi-young sat at the ship's computer console. Her fingers flew over the keyboards as she studied bioship schematics. She was young, maybe 25, with quick eyes and a sharp mind. I found something, she announced. The Zephyrian command ship has 3 possible brain locations. The primary neural center is deep inside, but there are backup control nodes here and here. She pointed to spots on the holographic display. Keftar leaned over to study the images. His massive frame cast a shadow over the small console. The backups will be heavily defended, he said, but the primary brain will be deeper and harder to reach. Which do we target? Deho asked. Keftar was quiet for a moment, thinking like the predator he was. We split up. 2 teams. One attacks a backup node to create noise and draw defenders. The other strikes the primary brain. That divides our strength, Jae-sung pointed out. But it also divides their attention, Sun He added. She had been studying the enemy formation on her datapad. If we attack 2 targets at once, they cannot focus their defenses. Exactly, Keftar rumbled. The small hunter understands pack tactics. Lieutenant Commander Park Soon-hye looked pleased at the compliment. She had spent her whole career being underestimated because of her size. But Kevtar judged only ability, not appearance. The ship's pilot spoke over the intercom. 2 minutes. To insertion point, prepare for combat drop. Daeho checked his equipment one more time. His rifle was loaded, his armor sealed, his emergency beacon active. Around him, the others did the same. It was the quiet ritual of soldiers before battle. Captain, Myung said softly, what if we do not make it back? Daeho looked at the young woman. She was trying to hide her fear, but her hands shook slightly. Then we will have given our people a chance to escape. Sometimes that is enough. Is it? She asked. Kev's single quotes Tar answered instead. Every warrior fears. Death, young one. But we fear failing our pack more than dying ourselves. How do you deal with the fear? Use it, Kevtar said simply. Fear sharpens the senses. It makes you faster, stronger, more alert. Fear is a tool, just like your rifle or your armor. Myung nodded, looking calmer. The apex predator's confidence was infectious. 30 seconds. The pilot called through the ship's windows. They could see the massive Zephyrian command vessel. It was enormous, like a living mountain floating in space. Its surface pulsed with organic light. Weapon pods tracked movement across the void like eyes watching for threats. Remember, Daeho said as they moved to the airlock? We stay together until we reach the ship. Then teams Alpha and Beta split up. Alpha takes the backup node. Beta goes for the primary brain. Who leads which team? Jae-sung asked. You and Myung take Alpha? Daeho decided. Kevtar, Sun-hee, and I will be Beta. Kevtar nodded approval. Good choice. Sergeant Major knows how to fight in enclosed spaces, and the young technician will be needed to access their computer systems. Insertion in 5.4.3.2.1. Go. The airlock opened and they launched into space. Their suits had small thrusters that let them move silently toward the enemy ship. The hull of the Zephyrian vessel grew larger and larger. Until it filled their vision, the bioship's surface was like nothing they had ever seen. It was covered in what looked like scales, but each scale moved slightly, breathing. Organic veins pulsed under the outer skin. It was beautiful and horrible. At the same time, there Soon-hee whispered over the radio. An intake port, probably for feeding the ship's metabolism. They landed on the hull near the opening. The surface felt warm under their feet, like touching a living animal. Myung pulled out her scanner and pointed it at the port. The opening cycles every 30 seconds, she reported. When it opens, we have 15 seconds to get inside before it closes again. It is not much time, Jae-sung said. Whoa, what it is, Kevtar replied confidently. They waited for the next cycle. The port opened like a massive mouth, revealing a tunnel that led into the ship's interior. Without hesitation, Kevtar dove in first. The others followed quickly. The inside of the bioship was like being inside a living body. The walls pulsed. With a slow heartbeat, its veins carried glowing fluid through translucent tubes. The air smelled of ozone and something organic, like a forest after rain. This way, Sun-hee whispered, checking her scanner. The corridor splits ahead. Teams separate here. Jae-sung and Myung disappeared down the left passage. Daeho, Sun-hee, and Kevtar continued straight. The deeper they went, the stranger their surroundings became. The walls began to change color as they passed, shifting from green to blue to purple. Kevtar noticed it first. The ship knows we are here, he said quietly. How can you tell? Asked the colors. They are warnings. The ship is trying to alert its crew. As if summoned by his words, a section of wall ahead of them bulged outward. The surface split open, and something emerged. It looked like a cross between a spider and a snake, with 6 legs and a long, flexible body. Its skin was the same color. As the ship's walls, guardian organism, Sun-hee identified, probably designed to hunt intruders. The creature spotted them and let out a sound like steam escaping from a pipe. More sounds answered from corridors ahead and behind. They are calling for help, Kevtar said. His blade arms extended from his hands with a soft clicking sound. Time for stealth is over. The first Guardian rushed at them. Kevtar met it head-on, his blades slicing through its body like it was made of paper. Green blood splattered the walls.
Oh.
"Move fast," he ordered. "More are coming." They ran down the corridor as alarm sounds echoed through the ship. The walls around them pulsed faster, like a heartbeat speeding up. Behind them, they could hear the chittering of many guardian organisms giving chase. "How much further?" Deho panted. Sunhei checked her scanner. 200 meters. But the passage ahead is blocked. They rounded a corner and saw what she meant. The corridor was filled with a thick membrane, like skin stretched across the opening. It pulsed gently, clearly alive. "The ship is trying to trap us," Kevtar observed. "It is learning our path and sealing it off. Can we cut through?" Asked. Kevtar examined the membrane with his predator's instincts. "Yes, but it will hurt the ship. That might bring more defenders. We have no choice." Kevtar's blades extended to their full length. He sliced through the membrane in one smooth motion. The ship around them shuddered, and a sound like a scream echoed through the corridors. "Now the ship is truly angry," Kevtar said with satisfaction. "Good angry prey makes mistakes." They pushed through the opening and continued deeper into the bioship. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew louder. But ahead, somewhere in the darkness, lay their target, the brain of the enemy, the heart of their mission. The hunt was reaching its climax. The corridor ahead opened into a vast chamber. The walls curved upward like the inside of a giant egg. In the center hung a massive organ that pulsed with electric light. Thick cables connected it to every surface, carrying information throughout. The ship. The primary brain. Sunhee whispered in amazement. But they were not alone. Around the brain chamber, dozens of Zephyrian warriors waited. They were tall and thin, with pale skin and black eyes. Their weapons looked grown rather than built, like living extensions of their arms. 63 enemies, Kevtar counted quickly. Good odds. Good odds. Deho stared at him. "There are only 3 of us." "Exactly. We'll get in each other's way. We will not." Before anyone could argue, the Zephyrians spotted them. A sharp whistle echoed through the chamber. The enemy warriors began moving toward them with fluid grace. Sunhee, can you reach the brain from here?" Deho asked. She pulled out her scanner and pointed it at the massive organ. "Yes, but I need to get to that control panel. It is 30 meters away, right through them. Then we make a path," Kevtar said simply. His blade arms extended to full length. Without warning, he charged into the massive enemies. His speed was incredible for something so large. The first Zephyrian barely had time to raise its weapon before Kevtar's blades cut it down. "Stay close to me," Deho shouted to Sun-Dashi. They followed in Kevtar's wake. The apex predator, carving through enemies like a sword through paper, but the Zephyrians were fast and smart. They began to surround the trio, cutting off their escape routes. "Behind you," Sunhee called. Deho spun and fired his rifle. Gah! The energy bolt struck a Zephyrian that had been creeping up on them. But for every enemy they killed, 2 more seemed to take its place. "There are too many." He called to Kevtar. The apex predator was fighting 3 enemies at once, his blades moving in perfect arcs. Green blood splattered his armor, but none of it was his own. Then we changed tactics. He grabbed one of the dead Zephyrians and threw it at a group of living ones. They scattered to avoid the body, opening a gap in their formation. "Now run for the control panel." Sunhee sprinted across the chamber. Her small size helped her dodge between the tall Zephyrian warriors. Ho! And Kevtar fought to keep the enemies away from her. She reached the control panel and immediately began working. Her fingers flew over the organic controls. The brain above them pulsed faster as she accessed its systems. "I am in," she called. "But there is a problem. The brain has defenses. It is trying to lock me out." "How long do you need?" Deho asked. He was down to his last clip of ammunition. 5 minutes. "We do not have 5 minutes," Kevtar growled. Zephyrian blade had found a gap in his armor. Dark blood ran down his side. That was when they heard an explosion from somewhere else in the ship. Then another and another. Alpha Team. Daeho realized. Jaesung and Myeong reached their target. The brain chamber shuddered. Some of the Zephyrian warriors stopped fighting and looked around in confusion. Their coordination was breaking. Down as one of the backup control nodes went offline, Good Kevtar said with satisfaction. The pack hunts well together. But their victory was short-lived. A new sound echoed through the chamber, footsteps that shook the floor. Something much larger than the warriors was coming. The chamber's main entrance dilated open. Through it stepped a creature that made even Kevtar look small. It was 12 feet tall, with 4 arms and armor that looked like black metal fused. With living bone, its head was crowned with spikes, and its eyes glowed with malevolent intelligence. Zephyrian Queen, Sunhae, identified without looking up from her work. The ship's primary commander? The Queen studied the intruders with cold calculation. When she spoke, her voice was like grinding stone. Insects, you damage what cannot be repaired. You will suffer for this. She pointed one of her forearms. At them, energy began gathering at her fingertips, bright enough to hurt their eyes. Kevtar shouted. They scattered just as the energy beam scorched the spot where they had been standing. The Queen's attack melted a hole in the floor. I cannot fight her and protect Sunhae, Kevtar said grimly. She is too strong. Then do not. Fight her alone, Daeho replied. The human captain stepped forward, placing himself between the Queen and Sunhae. His rifle looked tiny compared to the massive enemy, but he held it steady. You are brave for prey, the Queen said mockingly. But bravery will not save you. She fired another energy beam. Daeho dove to one side, barely avoiding death. Beams struck the wall behind him, leaving another melted crater. Sunhae? How much longer, he called. 2 minutes. The brain is fighting me, but I am winning. The Queen began walking toward them, her forearms weaving patterns in the air. More energy gathered around her, brighter than before. She was preparing something big. That was when Kevtar made his move. Instead of charging at the Queen directly, he leaped at the walls of the chamber. His claws found purchase on the organic surface, and he began climbing toward the ceiling. What are you doing? Daeho shouted. Trust me, pack brother. The Queen looked up, tracking Kevtar's movement. She raised her arms to fire at him. That was exactly what he wanted. The apex predator pushed off from the ceiling and dropped toward the Queen like a falling star. All his weight and speed focused into his extended blades. The Queen tried to dodge, but she was too large and too slow. Kevtar's blades pierced her armor and sank deep into her chest. She screamed in pain and fury, her energy attack going wild. Beams lanced in every direction, striking walls and ceiling. But the Queen was not finished. With her remaining strength, she grabbed Kevtar with 2 of her arms and began to squeeze. His armor cracked under the pressure. I've got it, Sunhae shouted suddenly. The brain is shutting down. Round them, the chamber began to shake. The pulsing lights grew dim. The massive brain organ above them started to shrivel like a dying flower. The Queen felt her ship dying beneath her. In her rage and despair, she squeezed harder. Kevtar's armor cracked further. He could feel his ribs breaking. Kevtar, Daeho, raised his rifle and fired every remaining shot into the Queen's head. The energy bolts cracked her skull armor, but did not penetrate. The apex predator looked at his human pack brother. Even through his pain, he managed to smile. Good hunting. Captain Lee Daeho. Then he did something unexpected. Instead of trying to escape the Queen's grip, he drove his blades deeper into her chest. All the way to their hilts. All the way to her heart. The Queen's eyes went wide. Green blood poured from her mouth. Her grip loosened as her strength faded. Impossible, she whispered. No single hunter could. ... I am not single, Kevtar replied. I hunt with a pack. The Queen collapsed, taking Kevtar down with her. They hit the floor together and did not move. Kevtar. Daeho ran to his fallen comrade. The apex predator was badly hurt, but still breathing. The mission? Kevtar asked weakly. Complete, Sunhae reported. The brain is dead. The ship is dying. Around them, the chamber shuddered again. Emergency lights flickered on as the main power failed. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of Zephyrian crew members fleeing for escape pods. "Can you move, Deho?" asked Kevtar. "With help." Deho and Sunhee lifted the massive warrior between them. It was slow going, but they made their way back through the corridors. The ship was falling apart around them. Walls cracked, ceilings collapsed, and the organic lights went out one by one. They met Jae-sung and Myung at the extraction point. Both were wounded but alive. Myung had to help support Kevtar's weight as they made their final escape. The stealth ship Baekdu picked them up just as the Zephyrian command vessel began its death spiral. Through the windows, they watched the massive bioship tear itself apart. "Look," Sunhee pointed to her scanner display. The enemy fleet was scattering. Without their command ship, the Zephyrian warriors had lost coordination. The Coalition defense fleet was driving them back, winning their first real victory of the war. Back on Station Omega-7, Admiral Hyenwoo met them at the landing bay, looked at the battered team with amazement and respect. "Gentlemen, lady," he said formally, "the Coalition owes you a debt that can never be repaid." "We did our duty, sir," Deho replied. "All of us." The Admiral turned to Kevtar, who was leaning heavily on a medical support frame. "And you? Will you continue to serve with us?" The Apex Predator looked at Deho and the other humans. "I told you before, Admiral, I do not serve anyone." Hyenwoo's face fell. "I see." But Kevtar continued with a slight smile. "I hunt with my pack, and this pack fights your wars. And welcome to the Coalition, officially," the Admiral said. Later in the medical bay, Deho sat beside Kevtar's recovery bed. The Apex Predator would heal quickly. His species was built for survival. "Why did you do it?" Deho asked. "You could have let the Queen kill me and escaped yourself." Kevtar's red eyes met his human friend's dark ones. "'Cause you showed me something I thought I had lost forever." "What?" "A pack worth dying for." Deho smiled. "And you showed us that strength comes not from commanding others, but from earning their loyalty. We make a good team, Captain Lee." "Deho, the best," Deho agreed. Outside the medical bay windows, stars twinkled in the darkness. The war was far from over, but something had changed. The Apex Predator was no longer alone. Humanity had found an ally who understood what it truly meant to fight together. The pack had prevailed.